You know, I've been watching anime for a while now. I never seem to get used to when I get a bad adaptation. My favorite series has been tarnished with bullshit decisions coming from Toei. I've had entire endings of shows either be changed or not even reworked. And I never seem to ever get used to the fact that even though all the warning signs are there, I'm going to get cheated again. Still maintain that sense of hope. And just like this time, I get punished for it. So today we're going to talk about a harem series, or kind of a harem series, that is getting ruined because of poor decisions once again. But to make it interesting, this isn't the same type of ruin that happens to most shows like Rosario plus Vampire, although it is leaning in that direction. So let's get into it. Hey everyone, it's Schizomanic here, and today we're going to talk about Hajimete no Gal, or as it is said in English, my first girlfriend is a gal, which gal is just another term for garu, which if you've been watching anime long enough, you probably already know what a garu is. But for those who don't, a garu, I believe, is the best way to describe it, style that is also associated with a kind of person who's known to be super easy. You can lay up with them, they don't give a fuck. It's a very lax, sexually free nature for girls. And if I'm wrong, please correct me in the comments. So this series started for the summer season, and surprisingly I was pretty excited for it because I'd actually ended up reading the manga when I heard this series got announced for an anime adaptation. And although it does look and it's pretty close to a stereotypical harem series, I think it had an interesting enough premise, and the way the manga went about it had an interesting enough storyline to where you could at the very least say, that's the least better than average, if not just average, which is a lot better than what we can usually say about these kinds of shows. So I thought it was a good idea. For those who don't know the plot, it's simple. Our main character Junichi and his loser friends set him up and make him fake confess to this garu in their class called Yame. Surprisingly, she's like, sure, I'll go out with you. And the premise of the show at that point is him dating a garu girl and figuring out how the fuck is this all gonna go. Am I gonna lose my virginity? Because that's the goal. He's trying to get laid. Whether or not that happens, or whether or not the girl's not just fucking with him, we'll find out in the coming chapters, I guess. The manga, although had a lot of reoccurring gags, had something that allowed it to be better than what it probably should have been. And that's the fact that it had a lot of heart. The anime managed to take a show like that, and it was pretty easy to not fuck this up. It already provided you with fan service and ridiculous moments. All you really had to do was adapt the chapter. They could not do it. The show already suffers from having pretty mediocre animation and songs that are pretty forgettable. But its saving grace is that the plot actually goes in a direction that's super appealing. Instead of it being the reverse, where the harem starts off and he has to figure out how to pick a girl at the end, it's kind of reverse because you start off with your girlfriend and you just had to kind of wade through all the bullshit to make yourself stronger as a couple. That's the one thing that this show had, was heart. Because a lot of the plot progression that happens in this show is based upon whether or not he recognizes that she might legitimately be into him. Obviously, if you're a nerd and the girl that you kind of bullshit ask out, half-ass ask out, goes, sure, I'll go out with you. Well, now you're dating the prettiest girl in school and you don't really understand why the fuck she would want to go out with you. So, of course, there's a lot of insecurities popping in your head. That's what the show constantly brought up throughout the chapters. It's not really a spoiler because it doesn't seem like the anime is going to do it, or if it does, it's going to do it way too late. From the very beginning when it started, there's this dynamic of her liking to tease him sexually, and I don't mean like actual sex teasing. I mean like harem type of sexual teasing, where you show cleavage and you act suggestive and you make certain references and you're like, do you want to look at my underwear kind of shit. and then she busts his balls about it all the time. A lot of these euphemisms are going to get me in trouble, I already know. The point is, that was the dynamic. She would do that, and he would be like, yeah, she don't want to fucking be with me. She just likes teasing me. And throughout the course of the show, they both kind of learn to realize whether or not if that's really true or not. Now, the reason why the anime has a lot of problems, and the core problem I'll talk about, is that for number one, the anime chose to only have 10 episodes. Now, I don't know why in the fuck it's 3 episodes shorter than a stereotypical anime season, or is that a budget thing or not? The budget doesn't seem like it was super high for the show to begin with, but the show is almost asking for a 2-season setup because the second problem is deviating from the manga. In the manga, as of right now, you have about 4 girls in total. In the manga, though, the two newest girls were introduced like maybe within the last 10 chapters. Meaning for the first season, you would have only had 2 girls, and the second 2 girls would have shown up towards the either end of the first season or the beginning of the second season. And because it's a monthly series, it wouldn't have hurt to split up the 2 seasons. They chose not to do this, and I understand that anime at this point in time is for the marketing of the original product. Whether it's the light novel, it's the manga, it's the video game, whatever. The point is, anime for the most part is just a marketing scheme. But, last time I checked, you guys sell the anime, and the anime needs to make money on Blu-ray sales to justify a second season. The problem is when you go ahead and you deviate from the manga so fucking hard to the point where you don't leave any plot-related stuff to animate, if it did do well enough, well, there you go. You've lost out on money, and you can't do a second season without completely bullshitting it, which, you know, that may not, it may be a thing you don't want to do. And because it's a harem series, there's no way in hell I'm expecting this thing to get like a reboot. It's a harem series. Harem series barely get that kind of attention. Shonen might, not harem. And the third thing about it not having any heart. The show's adaptation so far has been mediocre. It wasn't until I saw the preview for episode 6, I believe, is what drove me up the wall. The show's way of handling its adaptation was to still get the general premise and feel of what happens in that particular arc or set of chapters it's adapting, but may have changed in the way it happens. As I said, it introduces the 2 girls that were just slightly introduced maybe 10 chapters ago in the manga at the beginning of the show. Which is fair because luckily, because it's a school setting, those characters were already around anyway in the background. They just weren't put into the foreground. So you could get away with doing it. The problem is you lose the most important aspect of Hajimete no Gal. And I get it. It's also a fan service show, so that might be part of the important aspect. And we're not even going to talk about the fucking stupidity that is the censorship that goes on with the TV version of it so far. You censor panty shots. It's a harem anime. If nothing else, panty shots should be like on the bottom of the list. Spoiler alert, it's not. Apparently panty shots are very offensive now all of a sudden. But the way it was structured in the manga is that every time a new girl was introduced, it would be during a point in which Junichi's relationship with Yame has stagnated or is in somewhat of a like rough patch. And usually the girl being introduced would help Junichi come closer to the truth that he was looking to realize. So when every girl is introduced, it always meant something. Whether you were dealing with the girl's issues or not, which usually you were killing 2 birds with 1 stone. You were progressing Junichi's relationship with Yame while also trying to deal with the emotional baggage that is the new girl. In the anime, because they choose to rush all of them and add them back to back to back, there is no chill time. The other advantage the manga had was the fact that there was chill time in between each new girl introduced, so you could have some cool and nice, sweet Junichi and Yame chapters that made them feel like a fucking couple. The anime's problem is that they literally introduce a new girl every episode. And so what ends up happening is that all the little moments that happen in between those introductions are lost now. So now the couple feels a lot more hollow in the anime than they do in the manga because the manga had all these little bits peppered in. Just like for example, one that probably won't ever get animated. In the manga, they had this little plot point of progressing their relationship. That's what Junichi was trying to do throughout the manga so far. And it was always in little ways. I think the first one was like an indirect kiss one. The one I want to talk about though is the direct kiss one, where where he's trying to get a kiss from Yame like on the lips, like a real kiss. And one of the ways he ends up, a situation plays out where she's subconscious about her weight because she thinks she's been eating too much, where they're doing sit-ups, and it's like, well, if you can reach me, you can get a kiss. And you're like, okay, that's basic anime teasing bullshit, and the anime could make that absolutely hilarious. But the cool thing that happens in the manga is that ends up leading into little workout sessions for Yame and Junichi. So throughout the manga and later chapters, even when it's not relevant anymore, you'll still see them just working out together. And it was a nice little thing that started as like a simple I'm teasing you gag that built into some cute thing that they do together as a couple now. That shit, that kind of little touch is what makes these shows, what can elevate a show from being like mediocre and bullshit to like, alright, that's pretty cute, that's pretty good stuff that the anime fucking skips over. I understand that these new characters have appealing designs, a big boobed Oni-chan type character, flat-chested dominatrix, but these little touches is what makes your show go further, because you can get more sales, you can get more Blu-ray sales, manga sales, audio CD sales, and the show would be a lot more approachable, because harem shows, although are inherently flawed because of the way they're set up, can be very good and are very emotionally connecting if done correctly. And it's not even like the manga had bad material. You had great material to work with. The first season would have been just fucking gold. And that's not what we did. That's not what we chose to do. So honestly, this is just me bitching. It's just depressing. A show that had a lot of potential and had all these little things about it that could have elevated it from being mediocre as fuck to a genuinely good show. It's just depressing that the anime said, you know what, we're gonna try to still adapt stuff, but we're gonna fuck around a lot. Because what really brought this on is that the 6th episode seems to be full on filler that may have some in-canon moments. And considering this show only has 10 episodes and an OVA for some goddamn reason, I can't imagine this ending well. So yeah, I'm sad. I'm sad that a show that I enjoyed, and I've enjoyed the hell out of the manga, that the adaptation is now part of that same list of adaptations of shows that were good and got ruined by some dumb decisions in the marketing and animation department over there in Japan. So I'm hoping that the manga gets licensed in America, because I think you guys would enjoy it. Yeah, it's harem. Yeah, it's fan service. Yeah, it's a lot of dirty jokes and shit, specifically about Garus. But it has heart, has cute moments in it, has character development. I think people will get a kick out of it. When that shit becomes available, I will link it in the description. But until then, leave your thoughts and comments in the comment section below. Thank you all for watching. Life's a game. Play to win. Peace.